Welcome to the Think Yourself Healthy podcast, where you meet the intersection of mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Heather Duranja, founder of Nutrition Vixen, registered dietitian, nutritionist, personal trainer, and cognitive behavioral specialist. I'm a mother, author, self-improvement junkie, and recovering perfectionist turned professional half-asser. Each week, I'll be bringing on a guest or a topic that will help you go from surviving to thriving. Are you with me? All right, here we go with today's episode. Hey, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have Rachel Yaffe. Her and I had the opportunity to meet via Instagram and then got the opportunity to share time together in Mexico I guess it was early fall last year. I can't believe that time has already passed so much. So Rachel is a 23-year-old cancer fighter for 3 years and a fifth-year George Washington University exercise and nutrition science student. With her rare cancer diagnosis at 20, she has worked to change her entire life one step at a time to become more healthful and balanced. Her lifestyle changes have given her only sense of control throughout this journey and have allowed her to find her passion and a community in the field. Well, hello, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fabulous. Happy New Year and all of the good things. So I am so excited to talk to you today and share your journey with the audience. You and I had initially chatted via Instagram, and we had some common similarities that brought us together. And then we had an opportunity to attend Camp Conscious back in, I guess, was that late October? I can't even remember. I've
I
so
can't
much
even remember
traveling and
either.
trips. It's like, I don't even know. Anyway, so when we had an opportunity to meet in person, you were able to share with me in more detail your journey and what you have been through over these last 3 years. And I was just so impressed with your resilience and your strength and the beautiful glow that you have. You're just an absolutely illuminating human. And I think that, what you have been through, there's a lot of other females and males out there who are experiencing similarities and maybe feeling completely alone. So I would love to share with the audience your journey and talk to you about, some specifics of that journey. So would you like to talk to the audience, introduce yourself a little?
Well, first I want to say that I really haven't gone very public with my cancer journey. I've kept it really private for the past 3 years. So it's been kind of a big deal these last few months for me to open up about it.
Wow.
But I'm really excited to open up about it because I think I've taken a different view on it than a lot of other people. And I know that I look different than a lot of other cancer fighters. I'm actually still currently doing treatment right now. So I know it's just like a very different journey and different view than most people have about cancer. So I'm really excited to share and just explain to people how I've gotten through it and the changes that I've made, because I truly believe that some of these lifestyle changes that I've made have really, really, really impacted my health and gotten me to the place that I am today.
Yes.
Because it's super rare. And at the time when I was diagnosed, there was no known treatment that helped. And I'm one of the first patients on my treatment. So I really attribute to my current health to a lot of my lifestyle changes. So.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for being willing and vulnerable to open up and talk about your experience and share this publicly. That takes a lot of bravery, and I really appreciate you allowing this platform to be one of those sources that you have an opportunity to share. So thank you so much. That really touches my heart and means a lot to me. So tell us, so go ahead and let's, kind of talk. How did this all come about? What happened?
All right. So basically, I am a D1 lacrosse player at George Washington University. And freshman year, so basically all through high school, I was having calf pain. I was getting treated for tight calves. No one could figure it out. I was getting dry needling. Dry needling would work for like 30 minutes and then it'd come back. And every time I would run, my calves would just be in like such pain and they'd swell up. And I continued to play lacrosse into college. And in college, I also my calf pain continued and it actually started to get worse. So my calves would get really red and everything. And I got tested for like literally everything you could think of, like compartment syndrome and all of it. And everything came back negative. So nobody could figure out what was wrong. And they actually the doctors told me that I should go through with the compartment syndrome surgery because a lot of times the test does come back negative. But along with the calf pain, I also was getting random migraines. And I also got like a right shoulder injury while I was lifting. And literally all three of those things, nobody could figure out what was wrong. Like I got scanned for my shoulder and they were like, maybe it's an AC joint issue. We don't really know. But they diagnosed it with an AC joint, whatever, I forget what it was called. And so I ended up having to stop playing. But at the time, rewind a little bit, I had always been a super, super anxious middle schooler, high schooler, and then I got into college and I had to do run tests and my stress went through the roof, especially because of my pain that I got when I ran. Mm-hmm. So my stress plus like the stress of just like being a D1 athlete, being a freshman, having to meet new friends, all the freshman struggles. So my stress was through the roof. Then I'm pretty sure that all of my teammates and my coaches thought that like all of my injuries were coming from my anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had convinced myself of that too. But then by second semester, sophomore year, I just couldn't take the pain anymore. I was standing on the sideline the whole time and it was 6 hours a day and I was just tired of it. So I ended up quitting. Wow. And from there, I stayed at GW for second semester, but all of my friends were on the team still. So I was visiting some other schools and I ended up loving Tulane and I decided I was going to transfer there for my junior year. And so this summer before Tulane, summer before junior year, I was shopping with my mom in Georgetown, DC. And it was just this one day that really stands out to me because we were shopping and we went to get lunch and it was like normal lunch. I had like, I don't even know, like a quesadilla or something. Mm-hmm. And we decided to keep shopping. We're walking around and I literally had to sit down and stop shopping. And my bloating was so bad that like my back was hurting me and everything. And I had to sit on a bench and we figured we'd wait it out a while. And my mom and I talked about it and we were like, oh, this must be an allergy, probably mm-hmm. gluten or something because that's so common. And mm-hmm. So that's what we attributed all my bloating to. But then about 2 hours later, when it never went down, we talked about it and we decided that it was probably the best idea for me to go to a doctor and check out what was going on before I flew down to New Orleans for school. Mm-hmm. So that next day, I went to the doctor and we knew her. She was a family friend. She felt around. Everything looked okay, but then she felt my liver and she felt that it was enlarged. And we figured that it was mono because that's what happens with mono. Mm-hmm. But she sent me for an ultrasound the next morning just to be sure and make sure everything was okay. So I go to get the ultrasound at 7 a.m. the next morning. And I, of course, was I was 20 years old and I was like a super healthy athlete besides my injuries. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. This is stupid. So I got home from the ultrasound and I immediately fell back to sleep because it was at 7 a.m. And I woke up to, I think, a 9:30 a.m. call from my doctor telling me that I had to come in immediately. So I actually went in and went to a different doctor. He was a liver specialist who I also knew.
Okay.
And his daughter, I actually knew growing up. So you could see kind of the stress in his face, knowing that I was the same age as his daughter. You could see that he was like pretty scared. And he scrolled through my scan. And I think I had also gotten a CT at this point, and he was scrolling through. And there was a 20 centimeter tumor that he had found. And he told me that there are a lot of times when people get birth control tumors, which first of all makes me very upset because you don't really hear about the risks of birth control and these other things. But he said this is a lot bigger than a birth control tumor, so I don't think that's what it is. And really my only other option would be like a possibly cancerous tumor. So most people have to wait about a week to get a biopsy, but he rushed me through and I got a biopsy that night.
Wow.
And I had already eaten that day, so they weren't able to give me anesthesia. So they gave me local anesthesia and I was awake when they biopsied me. And then I think I'm not told, honestly, it was all such a blur. But
where exactly was this tumor located that they were doing the biopsy on?
It was on my liver.
Okay, so it was actually located on the liver.
Yeah, and it was 20 centimeters, so it was like the size of a baby.
Wow.
And so I got the biopsy, and then a few days later, I think the biopsy happened on a Friday, and then I think on Monday they called me in for a meeting to find out my biopsy results. And I'm not totally sure what happened in between because I think my parents knew and they had already done research to find me a surgeon.
Okay.
And so I went in the room and my surgeon was the one who actually told me that it was a cancerous tumor. But the way he presented it to me was honestly at the time great because he told me right away. He came straight out with it and said, so this is a cancerous tumor, but I'm going to remove the whole thing.
Wow.
So me as a 20-year-old, not knowing anything about cancer was like, amazing. I am going to be cancer-free completely. Can go back to my normal college life. My calves will feel better. Like everything will feel better. And so I go in, or side note, for liver surgery, you actually are supposed to have at least 50% of your liver healthy and able to, for it to be possible. I actually had less than 50% healthy. So I'm really lucky that I found a surgeon who was willing to do it.
Wow. And the 50%, the less than 50% function that you had was a result of the actual tumor?
Yeah. Well, majority of my tumor was cancer. Majority of my liver.
Okay.
But interesting thing about my cancer is that the healthy part of my liver actually functions perfectly normal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So 5 days later, I got my liver resection and I was like a mess when they told me I couldn't go to school because I was supposed to go to this new school. And I was like, I'm going. I don't know about you, but I'm going. Obviously I didn't go. But yeah, so I got my surgery and I think I was in the hospital. I was on serious pain meds for a while.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital. I had some issues in the hospital. Then I think I went home a week or two 2 weeks later, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was home for a week, and then I actually got an infection in half of my scar.
Oh.
And I had to go back in. They had to cut it open, and
Wow.
it had to heal from the inside out. So I actually like had a hole in my stomach for, I think, 8 weeks.
Wow.
And I don't know if you know what this is, but I had a wound vac.
Yeah. Yeah. Very familiar.
They're really annoying.
They are annoying, but they are game changers when it comes to healing.
They're amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, they're really amazing. But
They
I
smell bad.
mean, mm-hmm.
The smell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that smell. Yes.
Yeah. They're bad.
All right. I'm feeling you.
But so I had a PICC line, and I gave myself antibiotics every day for 8 weeks, and went in 3 times a week to get my wound vac changed.
Wow.
And emptied. And yeah, so then a few months later, I ended up going to Tulane. And my parents were like, no, you're not going there. And I was like, I'm going there. I'm not staying home. For my mental health, honestly, like I needed to go back to my normal life.
Mm-hmm. So you felt as if you needed some sort of like normalcy, something new and exciting, remove yourself from the environment, kind of change perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of details in between there that I could elaborate on.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody does have questions, they're more than welcome to DM me or email me or whatever. But I mean, being at home, all my friends were at school. Majority of the time I couldn't even move by myself.
Yeah.
So I was sitting on the couch watching TV all day, every day, and watching my friends go out and have fun. And I was just, it was depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know at this point that a negative attitude and a depressing environment is not helpful for your health. So
Absolutely not. Right.
yeah. So
I'm sure your parents were frightened at the thought of you wanting to go away. I'm sure that was very difficult for everyone to try and navigate through and come to a compromise that felt good for everybody.
Yeah, they were definitely scared, but they're amazing parents, and they really wanted the best for me. So, and I was insistent on it, and I found myself my own doctors and everything. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Rachel, you are an absolute warrior.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, when they did the surgery to remove the cancerous tumor, they removed more than 50% of your liver. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And with the removal of your liver, and luckily you are blessed that the portion you did have was functioning perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a chance for that part of the liver that was removed to regenerate, or are you always going to have less than 50% function of the liver?
So your liver is actually the only organ in your body that regenerates.
Mm-hmm.
So my liver has regenerated, or it is regenerating.
Oh, how
They removed
exciting.
so much that it's probably still regenerating.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is one amazing thing about the liver.
That's exciting. And how do they determine that it's regenerating? Do you go in and get ultrasounds and CT scans, and they do measurements to see whether or not that new tissue is developing?
Yeah, so every 3 months I go in to get my scans.
Wow. Okay.
I get CTs and MRIs. And also, I didn't mention that my cancer, it's called fibrolamellar liver cancer.
Okay.
It recurs really often. So I did go back to my normal life for a few months. And then when I got my first scan, it had actually regenerated, and I had 2 new liver spots. And they were small.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some small lung dots. But with your lungs, everybody pretty much has lung spots just with the air and everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just monitoring them to see if they grew, because growth would be a sign of cancer.
Right.
But because of the liver spots, we were able to assume that it was cancerous. Mm-hmm. So I actually started a triple therapy chemo treatment.
Okay. So
Yeah.
after the first surgery, you didn't have any chemo treatment. There wasn't any radiation, any chemo. It was just the surgery to remove the cancerous tissue. Then wait 3 months, do another scan, look to see whether or not it has returned, if the mass has grown back. And then from there, that was identified that, yes, there was activity. So now we have to move forward with doing chemo.
Yes.
Okay.
Looking back, there would have been a lot of changes.
Okay. So explain, what do you mean by that?
I mean, me and my family, we weren't really informed on cancer. It all happened so fast because I was diagnosed and had surgery within 5 days.
Okay.
So looking back, I mean, I immediately went back to my normal life once I was given the go-ahead.
Okay.
And I went back to drinking with my friends. I was never a big drinker, but I was doing college things.
Right.
And I would have made life changes immediately. And I hate chemo now. Like it's the worst thing ever. But I think it's really helped me. But obviously it's not enjoyable. I probably would have started it right away.
Okay. So you would have been proactive with trying to get chemo treatment sooner.
Yes.
Okay. And are you currently still getting chemo treatments?
I am. So basically, it's been a really long run. It's now been 2.5 years since that diagnosis. And I started out getting my triple therapy chemo treatment every other week for 7 days. I actually carried a pump.
Okay.
A tube and like a 10-pound thing that would beep, and it was awful. And I personally kept my cancer private, so I would have to hide my tube in my clothes every day. And
so hard.
Yeah, and I felt absolutely terrible, and I would pretend like I didn't. So I did that every other week for a really long time. I don't even know how long. And then from there, I actually had some like cryoablations because there would be little spots come up. And now I've actually been weaning off because my last cryoablation was actually January of 2019, or maybe in March. Honestly, I don't even know.
Okay.
But it's been like at least 6 months since I've had anything. So I'm in remission, knock on wood.
Sending prayers, lots of good vibes.
And I actually have my next scans next week. So hopefully it stays that way.
That's exciting. And I'm sure nerve-wracking.
Yes.
So tell me, what was it that motivated you to want to keep your cancer so private and try to hide this from your peers, your friends, your family?
Yeah. I mean, I told my family, but I mean, honestly, I even got upset when like my parents told their close friends.
Okay.
I think that, I mean, we all know like high school is a tough time. And you go into college and you are trying to make friends and you're trying to look a certain way and you're trying to fit in and you're trying to like not get judged. And you're just trying to be this specific person. And I was transferring schools, but even if I hadn't transferred schools, I think I would have done the same thing. And I don't look back upset with what I did. Because I just don't think I was ready. But having cancer is, I mean, you say the word cancer and people look at you and they're like, are you going to die? And I obviously I really didn't want to be seen as that girl.
Right. Okay.
I never lost my hair. Wow. I never looked different.
Wow.
So like I was still going out. I stopped drinking once my recurrence came back. And that's when I started to change my lifestyle. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, I definitely want to talk about some of those lifestyle changes that you attribute to being so impactful in this journey.
Yeah. I just to finish that off real quick, I just didn't want to be known as the girl with cancer, because I wanted to go out and do the normal things and people not look at me differently. And I wanted, not that like people would be, I was afraid that people would be nice to me just because of it.
Right. I completely understand.
Yeah. And I wanted to make my own friends, and I wanted friends who were like friends with me because when I didn't have cancer.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah.
You are a strong, brave woman. Very, very, very brave. That takes a lot of strength to be able to go about life as if nothing is happening when you're carrying around this 10-pound pump and no one has any idea that it's hidden underneath, your clothing. That's a lot. So how did you mentally deal with all of this while not sharing it with everyone around you? What was your outlet? What did you utilize to make sense and, process all of the feelings and emotions you were having during this experience?
Honestly, I don't even think I processed it.
Okay.
I think also part of the reason why I didn't tell people was because it kept me in denial.
Okay.
So I was at Tulane, I was with my friends, and I was living normal life besides the times when I had to go to the hospital. Wow. That's all it was. So honestly, I don't really think I was processing it, except for then I would come home and my mom would call me and ask me a question about when I was getting chemo, and I would freak out on her.
Okay.
And
do you feel like you have given yourself time and space to start processing? Have you started that, or are you still kind of, okay. And so is the sharing the experience and your journey part of that processing now and coming to acceptance that this really did happen and this is where you're at now?
Yes. So I think I have slowly started to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been helping me. I also think all of my lifestyle changes have really given me my only sense of control over my health. Mm. So that helps me both physically and mentally. Mm. And I also started my Instagram called Rachel's Clean Eats, which I don't really use for promotional things. I don't use to make money or anything, but I originally started it to motivate myself to stick to the lifestyle changes that I know that I've seen work for other people. Mm-hmm. And now I'm using it both for myself and also to help other people. But
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So can you talk to the audience and kind of share specifically some of these lifestyle changes that have had such a tremendous impact on your cancer treatment and your experience thus far?
Yeah, of course. So originally, I'd say the first lifestyle change I made was my diet. I was an athlete, so I ate whatever I want. I thought I could eat whatever I want. My coach actually didn't let us eat salads.
Oh, wow.
So we ate terribly.
Okay.
And I got diagnosed, and then my recurrence came, and my mom did all this research because there was no known treatment for my cancer. Mm-hmm. So she was like, we need to do whatever we can to possibly help you. Right. And she found all of this holistic research, and one of the main things was the keto diet. Mm-hmm. So I ended up speaking to a doctor, Dr. Nasha Winters, who is really a great researcher with diet and lifestyle change and everything. She had cancer herself and healed it with holistic changes. And I went to a nutritionist and everything, and I went really hard keto for 3 months. But I don't want to say that I went immediately because I was a mess in the beginning. Okay. My mom told me that I needed to do this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, are you actually kidding me? I just got diagnosed with cancer. I'm 20 years old and you won't let me eat a cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
And we did not get along for at least a year. But now I'm obviously really grateful for everything she's done. But yeah, so I went keto for a few months and it was a really hard diet.
Mm-hmm.
It's super limiting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also just like, I mean, looking back for me, in my opinion, everyone can have their own opinion.
Right.
It's not a healthy diet.
No, I commend you for saying that. Thank you. I am not a supporter. There are specific cases out there like, epilepsy where keto diets are very much needed in order to control symptoms. But for the most part,
like brain tumors and
right. But for the most part, in my experience as a registered dietitian and working with individuals, specifically females who have followed keto diets for more than 6 months, it typically results in having very negative impact on their adrenal system, as well as thyroid function and hormonal balance. So usually after they've gotten to that point where they come to see me for the help, it typically is somewhere between a year to 2 to 3 year journey for them to get back where they were prior to starting the keto diet from a hormonal perspective. So, but it is necessary for certain individuals, but it's definitely not a one size fit all type of approach. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's definitely been a lot of research of it like working for a lot of people. So I'm not trying to totally go against it. Just for me, it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of cream and milk and just like all of these things that you wouldn't really think of as healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was eating fat bombs. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
So I, over time, have changed to a plant-based diet.
Okay. Do you eat any kind of animal proteins?
So occasionally I will eat fish.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have to personalize your diet.
Correct.
Every single person has different nutrient deficiencies and different needs and everything. I go to a naturopathic doctor. I have gone to a lot of naturopathic doctors. I've gotten so many opinions. I've people who aren't even naturopaths. I've like Chris Woolham's and Nisha Winters and my naturopath, Dr. Osair, and like all of these doctors. We've gotten all of these opinions, read all of these books. And I've gotten a ton of blood tests and found out my deficiencies. And sometimes, I mean, I also got my gallbladder removed. So I've had some fat, like I have some issues with fat.
Thank God you gave up the keto.
I know. Oh
my gosh.
Isn't that crazy though that I was told to go on that?
Wow. So you had already had the gallbladder removed and then you were advised to follow keto?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
well, luckily you listened to your body and you listened to what was working and not working, and you decided to be proactive with finding out, not necessarily finding out, but basically being the expert of yourself and doing what felt best for your body. So many people are not intuitive in the sense of being mindful of what they're actually feeling when we eat certain foods. So I applaud you for tapping into that and being able to be perceptive and
thank you. Yeah.
Follow your gut.
Yeah. But I'd say like it's been a 2.5-year journey or 2-year journey for me to get to where I am with my plant-based eating. It took a really long time. So it's not easy for anybody who is trying to change their diet out there.
Well, and I'm sure that it will continue to evolve as you evolve as well.
Yeah. And then besides my diet, I have really been trying to work on my mental health. My I actually am using my Instagram also to like push me into uncomfortable situations.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I would never post like selfies of myself, like feeling myself, like proud of myself. But I'm really trying to work on posting those sorts of things just to kind of like force myself and get myself out there. I went to Camp Conscious, which was amazing. I've just been trying to take some steps that I wouldn't usually do. I've also been doing this program with my brother called Focus, where you basically do a different wellness challenge every week. So there was a week of meditation, and then you try and like incorporate it into your day-to-day, and you figure out which wellness things you enjoy and which ones you don't. So yeah, I've really been trying to work on my mental health.
I personally am a strong believer and advocate for, mental health first, because if our thoughts aren't in a place that are serving us on a more consistent basis, from a physiological perspective, it's really compromising our body's ability to maintain homeostasis. And if we can't maintain homeostasis, then that is down regulating all processes of the body over a period of time, which ultimately opens up the door for chronic disease to present itself. I know that you and I had an opportunity to, kind of share stories a little bit. And in 2012, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And I believe very, very strongly that the reason my HPV went into cervical cancer was because I already had a suppressed immune system from my IgA nephropathy kidney disease. And I was under a tremendous amount of stress and was getting lack of sleep. And so combination of those things opened up that door for that HPV to become full-blown cancer. And fortunately for me, I was able to have that removed through surgery, and then followed up and kept following up, and everything was great. This is actually the first time I'm going to share this publicly, but about 3 weeks ago, I was diagnosed that my cervical cancer is back. And unfortunately, being in the situation that I'm in with my health insurance situation, because this is a pre-existing condition for me and I have to go through clinics, they're not wanting to do anything. They're wanting to wait and watch it for a year to see whether or not it will just clear up on its own. And so now I'm having to really advocate for myself. I am immunosuppressed. I already have had this one time. Sitting around and waiting a year is not really a very ideal circumstance for me. It's not something that I feel comfortable with. And unfortunately, when I moved from the Midwest to the West Coast, I did not think about needing to make sure that I had all of those medical records with me so that I could take them and present that evidence to my new doctors. So now I'm in the process of trying to gather all of that evidence to make a case that I'm immunosuppressed. I've already had, this is a reoccurrence. This isn't something that I can take lightly. I have to be very proactive. And personally, I feel that I've gotten to this place because in 2017, I did a financial deal that went really, really bad for my business. I lost a lot of money. I was absolutely devastated. I just let stress overcome me, started eating bad, stopped exercising, and was worrying like there was no tomorrow. And I feel very confidently that 6-month period where I was in that place opened up that doorway for this to present itself. I do feel fortunate that I quickly did take control. And I think that potentially I could be in a lot worse situation right now had I not been more proactive sooner than later. So anyway, that's just a little side note. So I feel that stress is a huge component. Worrying, anxiety, those are such big promoters of chronic disease, specifically things like cancer, to be able to take control and host in our bodies. So I commend you and I applaud you and I encourage you to continue to keep working on that mental health and that mindset and controlling your thoughts the best of your ability, because ultimately, in combination with the diet and exercise, those are going to be the big game changers for you long term.
Well, thank you. And also I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm really happy you're like taking control over it, because
I'm doing my best. It's a very frustrating situation right now to feel like I have absolutely no control. I'm just literally having to go through the motions. I can't allow myself to become consumed with the what ifs. All I can do is, be present today, show up, do what I can, try to be as consistent as possible with all of my beliefs and lifestyle behaviors. And ultimately, I know that no matter what, this is meant to be. There's a lesson that I'm meant to learn from and to share with others, and hopefully they will learn and grow from it as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I am so grateful for you to, just take the time to share with us. Tell me really quickly, because we're running out of time, but ultimately, in terms of the lifestyle changes, the diet, so you're following more of a plant-based diet. You've eliminated things like dairy, but you've also eliminated gluten. Is that correct?
No gluten, no dairy, I personally choose not to eat any meat besides fish occasionally, just for the protein.
Uh-huh. I have to share with the audience really quickly. It was very comical in a sense when you and I were at Camp Conscious. We went there with this impression that we were going to be taken care of when it came to our food situation. And we both disclosed we're, gluten-free, dairy-free, pretty much plant-based. And you and I literally felt like we were starving for most of the time because there just weren't a lot of options. And for myself, I was even in a more compromised state because I can't do chickpeas. And there were a lot of things that had hummus and chickpeas.
I use beans a lot. So.
Yeah. So I was really in a compromised state. But ultimately, we ended up getting exposure to some of those things that we can't have. And both you and I had some pretty significant physical reactions from that exposure, which were really unfortunate. I know I wish I could share with the audience the size of my ankles when I was leaving Mexico. Yeah. They were so enormous. I'll have to text you a picture if you didn't see it. I was huge. My system was in such shock. A couple of the girls could not believe, they were like literally concerned for me walking through the airport going, oh my God, I didn't even have ankles. Like they were literally, I had put probably 10 pounds of fluid in the lower part of my legs. I was carrying so much fluid in my legs. It was not a good situation. So anyway, yeah, but it goes to show for individuals like you and myself, we always have to have a plan. There always has to be a backup plan. We can't take for granted that other people have our best interest at heart. So, that can be a challenge, but when there is a plan, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. It's
worth it.
It's totally worth it. And usually, when you're like in Mexico and don't really have another option, it's difficult, but usually you can, it's hard and it takes a while, but you can find options everywhere. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me about your community. You said that you found a community and support system. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it actually was really hard for me for a really long time also, especially when I was keeping it so private. Mm-hmm. Also, most cancer fighters and cancer survivors are a lot older than me. Mm-hmm. So it's been a very, very, very lonely journey. But I feel like personally, I've always been somebody who's like known as a smiler. Mm-hmm. I've always had a positive attitude. That's just kind of how I've always been. And so like, that's how I've always viewed cancer too.
Oh,
And I think that's really helped me also. But I think I had been like invited to attend cancer groups and all of these things. But for me, like I didn't really identify with cancer people as much as I did with people in health and wellness.
Okay.
So my Instagram and honestly, my Instagram has really opened me up to like the support system that has really like helped me get through all of this. And like I follow people who have gone through similar journeys. And even if it's not with cancer, it's with a different chronic disease. And they have showed me, I learned from them new lifestyle changes, and I learned from them all of these things. And I like DM with them, and I've gotten to like meet through Instagram so many awesome people, including you and all of these people we met at Camp Conscious. And I'd say that's the support system. I mean, plus all of my friends who have stuck by me have been incredible, and like they've helped me through it. It's just that they have never gone through it themselves, so they like it was a little bit different, but I'd say they are huge parts of me getting to where I am also. So I'd say I've found people through the health and wellness world as well as like my friends and family.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that there's a ton of people out there who are definitely touched by your experience and probably can relate and are going through the same thing. I encourage anyone out there who has questions to reach out to Rachel. Rachel, please tell the audience where they can find you and if you have any exciting things going on that you would like to share.
Yeah. So my Instagram name is Rachel's Clean Eats. So you can DM me, follow me, whatever, I'll answer.
And I will make sure to post that link in the show notes.
And I'm not there for like promotional things. I'm really there to motivate myself and motivate other people.
I applaud that.
And then I have gotten a lot of questions about the food that I eat, because I include a lot of like little things that people have never heard of, like psyllium husk and hemp seeds and just a ton of random things. So I have started a subscription box, just with like some of my favorite snacks. I'm not totally sure how often I'm going to be having it sent out, but if you're interested in that, more than welcome to DM me. So yeah, that's pretty much everything exciting going on right now.
That's awesome. Well, I just love you. As I mentioned earlier in the show, you just have an illuminating spirit. You are such a beautiful person from the inside out. I'm so impressed with your strength and your bravery. I know that you are going to do amazing things and you're going to help a lot of people. I always love to hear other stories of individuals who have gotten into this field because of their own personal experience. For me, I got diagnosed at 18 with this rare kidney disease that completely changed my life. But it opened up a world that has been so incredibly fulfilling. And I feel so blessed to have an opportunity to share with others and to motivate and encourage them to live their best life by lifestyle changes. And so I can't wait to follow your journey and watch all of the amazing things that are going to unfold in the future for you.
Oh,
thank you so much, Rachel. I love you. I definitely want to have you back on and we can talk more specifics about actual diet things and some of the tricks and tips that you have utilized throughout your journey to keep you on the right path and feeling good and energized and all that great stuff.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Think Yourself Healthy podcast. I'm so grateful that you stopped by. If you could just take a minute to share this episode with someone you think who would love it, it would be amazing. Take a screenshot that you've listened to the episode and tag at Think Yourself Healthy and myself at Nutrition Vixen so that I can share it. Leave a review on iTunes to let us know how much you loved being here and what you want to hear next. Until next time, don't forget to think yourself healthy. Thanks again, guys. Bye.